Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Hey South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visit.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fm.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors. Here the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. We got to talk Jimmy Buffett.
One day at breakfast, he says, I started a new song. He says, about a night and a day in Key West, I played a bar and I got drunk, and coming home, I stepped out of my flip-flop, and I just kept going. I stepped on a beer can. And the next morning, I'm up, and I'm hungover, and I'm trying to make a margarita. I got some shrimp boiling. I can't find the salt. I said, Jimmy, I kind of like this. And he said, yeah, I think I'll call it Margaritaville.
In a Mississippi Minute.
Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on your local SuperTalk Mississippi station and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates every single day the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such an amazing place to live, work, and play. Today, we're going to spend the entire hour with my friend Ashley Edwards, who is the CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council. And we got a wide range of things we want to talk about, from the economic situation here to an opportunity he and I had recently to go speak to Leadership Gulf Coast. We'll talk a little bit more about that, the importance of leadership development programs all along coastal Mississippi. I got questions about a casino in Slidell. Saw a bunch of signs there on the way back from New Orleans recently. And, what do we look for in the legislative session? Anyway, there's a lot to talk about. How you doing, Ashley?
I'm doing great, Ricky. Thank you for having me today.
So let's remind people, assuming no one has ever heard any conversation you and I have had before, tell us who the Business Council is.
Well, I think the simplest way to say it is we represent a good economy on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We generally represent the interest of the employers, everyone from small businesses to large businesses, local retail companies to big gaming companies. And our goal, our mission is to make sure that we have the most sustainable and successful economy that we can possibly have here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And so what we do every day is we're looking into the things that sort of make the economy tick, the market, the workforce, ultimately making sure that we're seeing increasing payrolls, that we're seeing increasing economic development. So it's sort of an all of the above solution, but we're primarily focused on having a sustainable economy here in Mississippi.
So it's really important, as I've said many times on the show, in the midst of the pandemic, coastal Mississippi has performed really well. I don't want people to get sort of let them lull them into thinking that we performed well relative to other markets in the pandemic. However, if you go back and look at some of the economic health reports from like Polycom, for example, who does rankings across the United States, and other key economic indicators, I would say that we almost have to go back to pre-Katrina days to really appreciate kind of where we are today and how challenged we really are today. It's a competitive situation. There's some numbers that are alarming and really point to the need for us to have an organization like the Gulf Coast Business Council that's focused on strategic outcomes so that we can not get lulled into thinking that everything's going to be rosy here. The competitive situation being what it is, we've got big work to do, don't we?
We do have big work to do. It's kind of a tale of 20 years in a lot of ways. I mean, I moved to the coast in 2002, so about 3 years before Katrina hit. And it's fascinating, Ricky, when you go back and you take a look at where the Mississippi Gulf Coast was relative to other economic regions of the United States coming out of the 1990s. We at that time were projected to be one of the sort of big growing major regions of the early part of the 2000s. And it wasn't just that folks were saying, hey, we think that they have a lot of potential. We were seeing it in the numbers. Our median household income here in the Gulf Coast counties were very close, about $4,000 away from the national median household income, which is incredible. You fast forward to today, we're 20 some odd $1,000 away from that number. So there's no question that, really just the punch after punch of Hurricane Katrina, the recession, the oil spill, the Bonnie Carey spillway. I mean, all of these disruptions we've had on up into the COVID pandemic have really arrested a lot of the growth that we are experiencing. And despite that, we've continued to do very well. And, I tell people all the time, this is, those Polycom rankings that you talked about, this is serious stuff. These are red flags that we see and that we talk about a lot with our business people. And, a couple of years ago, Polycom came out with their rankings. And for folks that may want to look that up, that's POLICOM, Polycom Corporation. They do economic health rankings. And we were ranked, I think, number 360 out of 383 metropolitan statistical areas in the United States. Number 361 was Flint, Michigan. And you ask yourself, how in the world could we be ranked one ahead of Flint, Michigan? And, we really passed the windshield test here. And what I mean is, when you look at all the rebuilding that occurred after Katrina, all of the money that was invested post oil spill, we have a beautiful market, a beautiful destination, lots of new things along the beachfront. But just simply passing the windshield test does not always mean that the underlying factors that sort of lay the foundation for the economy are as strong. And we've seen decreases in our military jobs, decreasing in our manufacturing jobs. We've seen a lot of decrease in professional services jobs over that time, and we've seen corresponding increases in a lot of hospitality jobs, which are generally on the lower paying end of the spectrum. And so we've started to see that job mix change over the last 20 years, and we kind of find ourselves today in a bit of a different situation than we found ourselves in coming out of the late 1990s.
What do you find people are genuinely surprised when they hear that we actually achieved peak employment pre-Katrina, not since Katrina?
Yes.
Do you find them surprised by that?
When I speak to groups, one of the first things I ask is, I'm going to give you a few different options of what year do you think we had the highest employment on the Mississippi Gulf Coast? And one of the options is the current year. And I'll ask people to raise their hands, and most every time they'll raise it and say, well, the current year, obviously, this is when we had the highest employment. And that's actually not true. And I think it is very surprising to people. And again, it's not something that you necessarily notice when you travel throughout the market. But you think about the number of homes that we continue to be down since Hurricane Katrina. The oil spill was not nearly the environmental catastrophe as it was the economic catastrophe, because in many ways, what happened with the oil spill was that the process by which people made claims to BP and businesses made claims, that really was the exit strategy for a lot of businesses that had been struggling through the Great Recession. And we saw a lot of businesses close during that oil spill period in those couple of years. 2011, 2012 were some of the worst years that we've seen in decades. So it's been very tough. And again, it's all these economic disruptions, none of which we put on ourselves. I mean, we were the victim of all these things. It wasn't anybody's fault locally that we had to go through this stuff.
Well, I remember after Hurricane Katrina, we had a mental health expert who was literally on the property for quite a while, 3 or 4 months. And employees, we wanted employees to have the ability to talk to someone, because the employees, some lost family members, some lost everything. They were working. We wanted to make sure their health, their mental health was addressed as best we could. Well, one of the things she told me, she said that, okay, think about this for a minute. Before Katrina hit, 50% of society is doing pretty good, but 50% is on the edge. Now, since Katrina hit, the 50% that were on the edge are off the edge now, and the 50% that were over here, 50% of them are now on the edge, are off the edge. Okay. And I never forgot the way she said that, and I understood that from a mental health point of view. But I also think about small business. When Katrina hit, I mean, how many small businesses, and this is rhetorical, I'm not asking you to answer the question, but I wonder how many small businesses on any typical time are just literally on the edge of not being in business anymore, because they're the heartbeat of our ultimate economy. Katrina hits, so let's say 50% were on the edge. Now they're off the edge. Many didn't open back up again. So we're bringing our economy back again. And then we had the oil spill, and then they drop off again. And then you had the Bonnie-Carey spillway, and some more drop off again. And then you had the pandemic. Lord have mercy. Yeah. The number that dropped off during the pandemic is shattering. And these are all the reasons why we are really resilient. We bounce back. But if you look at the macros of our economy, we haven't given ourselves, these disasters haven't given us the opportunity to take a deep breath and really be focused in a way that's going to help us build our economy. That's why, as you and I talk about the new economy so often, the opportunities within the new economy are very significant for us, because people want to choose where they want to live, and we have an opportunity to not necessarily go get the big plants, but get people high-tech paying jobs and other types of jobs that can work remotely and have them move here. There's some real opportunities in that area, isn't there, Ashley?
There's a lot of opportunity there. And I think in some ways what you just touched on is really the most important thing that we can be talking about as it relates to the economy here locally. And it's that forward-looking, 2021 to 2030 time period. We are seeing changes happen in the world economy and the national economy that are unlike anything that we have experienced. I mean, this is truly kind of the next industrial revolution that we're going through. And with that in mind, going forward, we've got a lot of new doors opening, a lot of new opportunities. But it's not going to just fall in our lap. It takes strategy, and it takes very intentional action, really designed around a new strategy for the new economy.
New strategy. That's where the BP money, or specifically the Coast Restoration Fund, is so critical, because it can help make private investment projects that may not otherwise be viable actually viable, because the BP money helps to make the numbers work. We'll talk more about all of these pieces and how they fit together after we come back from break. This is the CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council, Ashley Edwards, and we'll see you after this.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
It's 2021, and J. Allen Toyota still has a lifetime warranty on all new Toyotas. They all come with Toyota Care. We've got a great rental department. We've got great used cars. We've got a parts and service department ready to help you. So when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk, Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visit.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back. Now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out. The new Bob 106.3.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We have Ashley Edwards, who's the CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council, with us. And, you know, and anytime you do a strategic plan, you're going to have strengths and you're going to have weaknesses. You're going to have opportunities and you're going to have threats. That's just the reality. And it's important when you develop a strategic plan to be really, really honest about the current situation. I often said when I was leading strategic planning efforts in the corporate world that you can't go to where you want to go if you don't know where you are now. So we always spent a lot of time really understanding the current situation, whether it's a current process, whether it's a current, structure of a corporation, or whether it was an economic situation, whatever they might be, what the opportunities were, what the threats were, and so on, and as honestly as we can tell them. And I know that you and your incredible executive committee, composed of some of the most significant CEOs in coastal Mississippi, are very honest about the red flags you see, which is one of the reasons why you've been driven so hard to develop a strategic plan that really begins to understand where the real opportunities are for us. And if the Coast Business Council doesn't do this, Ashley, who does this? What organization does this that would look at the three coast counties?
Well, it's such an interesting thing that you asked that question. One of our former chairmen, John Hairston, CEO of Hancock Bank, he used to begin a lot of his speeches as the Business Council chairman by sort of asking the audience to identify some of the challenges that they see. And then he would ask the question, okay, now who's responsible for fixing this? And there would oftentimes be a lot of silence because the question really is, who is responsible? Is it the mayors? Is it the boards of supervisors? Is it the business community? Is it the legislature? And really the answer is it's all of us. And that's kind of a feel-good answer, sort of like when people say economic development is a team sport. But you've got to have people that are accountable, and you've got to have people that wake up every morning thinking about these issues. And that's really what we've tried to do here at the Business Council. We're really fortunate on the Mississippi Gulf Coast that we've got a number of executives who oversee companies that don't just have locations here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So they're seeing the economic situation that's happening in other competitor markets. You look at a guy like John Hairston, he's a great example. Banks from Texas to Florida. So he sees what's happening in all these individual regions and markets and states. And they're really able to kind of compare the success that we're having here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast to what they're seeing in other areas. And those comparisons are important because, you can't always just compare yourself to past performance. I mean, the question is always, well, compared to what? I made a comment one time about the fact that there was a year a few years ago when Gulfport had seen like an 8% increase in sales tax diversions. And there was a little article about it that said, hey, this is positive. We saw an 8% increase in sales tax diversions. So they're going up. But then when you kind of looked at the rest of the story and you saw that Flowood, Mississippi had seen a 64% increase, that tells a story. So it's compared to what? And we always are comparing ourselves to other similar markets, similar populations, similar type of industrial mix to see what's going on in those markets. And to your point earlier, this new economy, the things that we're seeing happen, the changes that are accelerating in the economy, That's where so much of our focus is today, because when you look at the regions who are being really successful out there, one thing that you see that they all have in common is they are all trying to evolve with the economic evolution that we're seeing both nationally and worldwide.
Yeah, I find, of course, for people who don't know this or don't remember this, I was the publisher of the Sun Herald. I worked at the Sun Herald for 27 years, was very active in the community, involved as a vice chairman of the recovery effort after Hurricane Katrina. My planning area of responsibility for the Governor's Commission was tourism. And so, I've spent a lifetime being involved in the community, trying to understand this. I had a great mentor in Roland Weeks. And, what Roland taught me early on is that we spent so much time in coastal Mississippi fighting amongst ourselves that Jackson really never had to pay much attention to us. And it was Hurricane Katrina and the ultimate formation of the Gulf Coast Business Council that began to really, for the first time there were other organizations that predated this, but I'm saying one that was really focused on bringing about change and helping to sort of unite around the economic strategic imperatives that exist. The Gulf Coast Business Council was a huge step in that direction because it then we began to look at the region as an entity. Each city, each county has their own little thing going on, and these senses of place that I talk about on Coast Vue all the time is what makes us such an amazing community. But there's at a macro level, there are things that we share, and when we can come together and get surrounded around those opportunities, we're unbeatable. I think about places like, I spent time in Alabama. I had responsibilities for the Mobile Press Register, the Birmingham News, and the Huntsville Times. So I spent a lot of time in Huntsville. And when you look at what Huntsville has done and how they do it, and when the way that they bring their regional leadership together, and when they say, I think they called it something like the Washington 100, and they bring 100 leaders and they brought 100 leaders to Washington. They didn't mess around, man. When they went to Montgomery, they went as a unit, and they were very focused around what they wanted to do. And I still think without naming any specific issue, I still think one of our biggest challenges, and this is the role the Gulf Coast Business Council has to play, is in getting everyone on the same page. We're too often not on the same page around the issues we should be on the same page about. And to me, that continues to be frustrating. I think that too many people, and again, not naming names, there is a powerful lubrication to move toward mediocrity, protect the status quo, and not focused on where could we be and where do we need to go, and let's make some tough decisions. I hope that we can begin to make more progress around where the big opportunities are. How do you assess our ability to get our heads around big issues?
Well, look, you're absolutely correct. It has been difficult, and oftentimes when we want to figure out who we have to blame for not necessarily doing better than we've done, it's just a look in the mirror, because it's really not external factors. There are a lot of things that we can control, and so disasters aside, there's no question we can always do better. Think about it this way too, Ricky. I mean, if you were going to be designing from scratch on paper a new economic region, and you built a region that has incredible infrastructure, 80 some odd miles of interstate frontage, the Gulf of Mexico, environmental tourism activities, low cost of housing, low cost of labor, high quality of life, proximity to other major cities like New Orleans. I mean, you literally would have a tough time designing a place that should be as competitive as the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And we've got to keep that in mind. We've taken business groups to Nashville a number of times to look at sort of their model there and what they've gone through. And it's a pretty incredible story. But, suffice it to say, one of the things that has always stuck with me in being in Nashville and talking to some of their leaders there is we ask the question of, okay, well, for some of you guys that are familiar with the Mississippi Gulf Coast, what are your thoughts? And, in each and every case, they say, we don't understand why you're not out competing us. You have advantages that we don't have. If we had, a coastline on the Gulf of Mexico, imagine where we would be. So, I think other folks see us sometimes differently than we see ourselves, and actually see the potential that we really have. And that's one of the reasons we've had the success we've had with outside investment coming in and really, ultimately standing up the coast. We don't have a tremendous amount of investment capital locally and in the state as a whole, but we have to continue to attract those outside dollars. Those are important for us.
I mentioned the BP money, the restoration fund. It's my hope. For people who don't know how it works, essentially projects come forward, they get scored by a committee. Ashley's a leader in that committee. They get scored by the committee, then they go to the legislature, and then the legislature decides it's an advisory committee. But unfortunately, the way it's structured today is not all projects have to go through the committee to get scored. My comment to both the lieutenant governor and the speaker on this subject is that if we're really, really serious about not having this sort of be a political game, but have it be one that really seeks to find transformational projects that can pay back and solve some of these red flags that we're talking about, then all of these projects must be scored. So we can, if we want to improve sort of the outcome of the scoring, then we can tweak the scoring system. But if we're allowing projects to go around it, then it's just this kind of bifurcated political game that we're playing, and it's truly unfortunate. And what I say about it is that we've only been through a couple of rounds. We got 14, 15 years to go. That's the good news, and we get a chance to get this right. And we can use the experience so far to show that some of the projects we've done aren't transformational in purpose. They're just one-time money spent for cities or counties that could have got other sources to be able to do that. When we come back and talk about this on the other side, I want to talk about the still potential transformative nature of the BP money or the Coast Restoration Fund and how it might help us in addressing some of these new economy challenges that we have. This is Ashley Edwards from the Business Council, and we'll be back after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Get the scoop on what happened in college football and what to expect in the NFL. Each Sunday on Sports Sunday with Michael Borky. Get the story behind the stats, 8 to 10 a.m. on SuperTalk Mississippi, supertalk.fm, and watch the show on supertalk.tv. SuperTalk Mississippi. We're more than just words. This is where the story of your state is told. Proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Super Talk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visit.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. Super Talk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and, all this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on Super Talk Mississippi, the Super Talk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on Super Talk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I'm Ashley Edwards, the CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council. When we went to break, we were beginning to talk a little bit about the BP money or the Coast Restoration Fund. Have the opportunity to disperse millions of dollars for the next, we have about 14 years left, or is this our 15 years?
Yeah, 14, I think is correct.
14. So, we get a chance to get this right. So I'm not so critical at this point. But when I talk to people like Ben Brown wrote the Governor's Commission report after Katrina, certainly edited it. He worked for Andreas Dwani. He's literally a Renaissance guy, but he works for the company called Placemakers, and they go in to help do development programs, redevelopment programs in communities all over America. And what he said was, if some of the communities he worked with had anything like that BP fund, there would be developers knocking their doors down to try to get to the money, and they would want that. They would want their whole goal would be to leverage the money, to take $1 of BP money and turn it into $5 or $6 or $7 or $8 in some kind of transformative projects. So you can take a major project, like let's say the one that's proposed is a very massive a multi-million-dollar project, mixed-use project for Gulfport, and make that project viable by having the BP money help kind of make the numbers work. He said they would love that. They would just be stumbling all over themselves to get to that money. But we're having a struggle about it. We're having, for whatever reason, we're wanting to spend the money on government buildings and government stuff and not thinking transformatively and literally inviting private investment to come in and say, hey, help us leverage it. The one who leverages the most gets the most, or whatever. I mean, am I out there and thinking that, Ashley?
No, you're not out there at all. I mean, look, I never want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And obviously it's good to have money flowing. It's good to be able to get this money spent and get it into the local economy. I think in a perfect world, it'd be nice to see something like this money in an irrevocable trust that would allow for investments to be made, that really meet a high standard as the opportunities arise. There are ways that, we should be able to be using this money, not just over the period of 19 years, but over a period of 50 years, if ultimately you could really manage it that way. But, government's not always really great at doing that. It's difficult sometimes when you got private companies that are involved and looking to try to partner and leverage public dollars. Those are all very difficult things. And it's a difficult job for the folks that are our elected officials to do. On the same note, to Ben Brown's point, and I think he's exactly right, the way that you create the greatest value on these dollars is by using these dollars to attract more private capital to come in here and invest. So if for every dollar we invest in a project, we get a commitment that some private firm is going to put $10 of their own in it, then we've now created $11 local spend for every dollar rather than just the $1, which is a lot of times what we see when we're doing government-owned infrastructure or buildings or parks or things of that nature. Not to say that those things aren't important, but the other thing I think that's so important for people to keep in mind, and it's something that often gets lost. In many ways, these BP dollars, this is the most valuable money we have. And people say, well, actually, what do you mean most valuable? I mean, a dollar is a dollar is a dollar. Well, not really. Not when you're in the government world, because some dollars are very prescriptive. Infrastructure grants could have to be spent on infrastructure. Environmental restoration grants have to be spent on environmental restoration. And there are programs throughout state and federal government to meet a lot of needs that happen. Now, are there enough resources? No, of course there aren't. There are never enough resources for everything. But there are different avenues to address these things. The BP dollars are valuable because we can literally spend them on virtually anything. So they become the gap fillers, the things that you can't find, a source at the Mississippi Department of Transportation or BP oil spill money or federal infrastructure spending or federal pandemic spending. I mean, all of these things all this money we see flowing. And, that's why I think it's so incredibly important to make sure that we're not spending this money on projects for which there are other funding sources that are more prescriptive, that have to be spent on those things, because we're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul in a way. And again, the public policy of it is difficult. There's it's complicated. There are a lot of projects that are being applied for. There's a lot to navigate there. But to your point, we've still got a lot of opportunity ahead of us. There's still a lot of money to be spent, both from the direct BP dollars and other oil spill dollars that now you're going to see combined with federal infrastructure dollars and American Recovery Act dollars, other things from the pandemic. Probably the best the best opportunity we've had to make some major investments since Hurricane Katrina, and maybe the last one we'll have for quite some time. We have to get it right.
Hey, so when someone says, say a legislator or some leader in the state, political leader says, or elected leader says, I don't want to spend this BP money on a private enterprise. To me, that doesn't add up, because we're doing TIF bonds constantly across this state. What did it take to make Nissan work? And I could just name them off one at a time where the states had a stake in a private enterprise. So how do you counter that?
Well, I think as it relates to these, look, I totally understand the notion that we don't want to take government money that was paid by the taxpayers and put it in the hands of private companies. I get that. That's politically. I understand the really high cliff that you have to climb to try to do that. And you're right, the state of Mississippi does do it on economic development projects and big projects they bond. One thing to keep in mind about these BP dollars is, the dollars belong to the taxpayers, but they weren't paid by the taxpayers. They were paid by a private company as a damage settlement for economic damages they inflicted. So they are intended to restore the local economy than the way it was harmed during the oil spill. So we really got to always keep that in mind. And so, how do you do that? Well, you really focus on what's the economic impact of projects. What's the total capital investment that's going to come in? If you spend $1, how many tax dollars will it generate over time? The difference between, building a publicly owned road, or I shouldn't say building a road, but repaving a publicly owned road and building a new one, is that repaving it is probably not going to create a lot of new development on it, but building a new one does. So it really becomes, how do we create sustainable income sources for our cities and counties over time? And, I asked them all to just look at it very simply. Look, if we put $1 into this project, how much will we see over the next 50 years? And if the answer is we put $1 in this project and we'll see 1,000 come in as a result of it, that's what a good investment looks like. And that really ought to be the type of standard that we're using. That's a little bit of an oversimplification, but in some cases you just have to make it a little bit more simple. And it is ultimately, what does the return on investment look like? And if that is our guiding, our guiding standard, I think we will do very well if we keep that at the forefront.
At the end of the day, we're not agreeing on what transformation is. The bill intended for transformation to happen. The wording is there. The intention is there. But the process that was set up enabled political maneuvering to occur. And I get it, man. If I'm a mayor in some small town or in a county and I've got a shortfall and I need the money and this money's there and my legislature is willing to work for me and they can lobby the lieutenant governor and the House Speaker, I'd say power to them, really. At the end of the day, though, it's up to leadership in our state to stay focused on Coast is an economic engine. It's an engine that drives the state. Think about it. Ingalls on one end, Stennis on the other, the tourism economy and how that affects our state. It is to everyone. I don't care if you live in Tupelo or you live on the coast. It is important to everyone that the coast be an economic engine. And what are we don't often get the opportunity, especially given the impact of the oil spill on coastal Mississippi. We don't get a chance to invest in things that could pay back for many years to come and create jobs, as opposed to build a municipal building over here. We have to get aligned. This is one of the areas where I think we've got work to do. We've got a lot of work to do when it comes to taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of us to address our needs as a set of communities. And we get a chance to get this right. I think there's some intention in the legislature to make it so that all projects have to come through your committee, that nothing can come around it. And, those will be steps in the right direction. And hopefully we'll start to get more focused on what transformation is all about. Hopefully we'll do that. You're still hopeful we'll do that as well, aren't you?
Yeah, look, here's the good news in all of it. I have never had a conversation with anybody, business person, legislator, statewide leader, who doesn't agree that we absolutely need to be picking transformational projects. And we just got to sometimes align the process with the goal. And so I think that's what we're going through right now, is how do you get the process to make sure we get the outcomes that we're looking for.
Absolutely. That is the goal for sure. Hey, when we come back, we'll find out what is going on these days at the Gulf Coast Business Council during the holidays. We'll see you after this break.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
SuperTalk Mississippi. Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth. When you want the truth. Simply because it might hurt some feelings. And nothing but the truth. Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute.
Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. And look, it's not every day we get into all the gyrations of politics and available money and bonding and financing. I mean, sometimes I know that these conversations seem a little bit nerdy, but success in a community really requires that we be good at this. We have to be good at this level so we can celebrate what 90% of this show really talks about most of the time, the people who are really making a difference. But, a strategic plan, a regional group that's focused on that, making sure we're real honest about the areas of opportunity and the areas of challenge. That's the key to success, and that's what the Gulf Coast Business Council is doing. I've got Ashley Edwards, the CEO of the Business Council, with me. Ashley, before we shift gears, because I'm just curious about life at the Business Council these days. So you've gone through a couple of rounds of scoring projects that are part of the Coast Restoration Fund. And this latest round that will now head toward the legislature to go through that process. Do you find the quality of projects are getting better?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, several of the committee members, and I should add, the committee members that we have are outstanding. The work they do is outstanding. But they all commented on the fact that, after reviewing the projects this year, we felt like the quality of projects had improved, the quality of applications had improved. And I think we're starting to see more good projects come through the pike. And so, that's good news. That's really good news. And that's only going to continue as people become more aware of the funding opportunity, as they start to see, what's being funded over time, as new opportunities arise. I think you're going to continue to see the quality of projects go up. And this year was no exception. We actually recommended more projects to the legislature this year than we had in the previous years, and our projects in aggregate scored higher this year than they had in previous years. So things are moving in the right direction.
Wow, that's awesome. That's good. That's really good to hear. So what's life like at the Business Council these days? Did things slow down, or you got to-do lists that are a mile long?
Well, the December is always a kind of an interesting month because we're budgeting for next year, and like any organization or small business, we're a small nonprofit, and at the end of the day, we depend on our members for support, and so there's a lot of work to do, and not always a lot of resources to go do it, and we're no different than lots of other businesses in that regard. But really planning for the next year, we've got a lot of big things coming up next year. Our sincere hope is that we really start to see this pandemic subside in such a way that we see a real return to normalcy. You look back to 2021, and man, things just felt like they were starting to go so well. April and May and the spring, and the number of infections were going down, and people were returning to events. And then the Delta surge hits, and just another thing that we kind of had to roll with that punch. But hopefully we will see that start to subside next year. Obviously, we're watching very closely what's happening in the national economy and with the Omicron variant. The biggest issue that we have found ourselves diving into in these last few months really is their workforce issues. As all of your listeners know, there are signs looking to hire new workers. It's just about every business they see. Workforce is an issue all over the country right now, not just in coastal Mississippi. And so that's going to continue to persist on into 2022. You look at the numbers that were recently released from the federal government for August and September. A lot of economists are calling it the Great Resignation, because there were so many people that left their jobs during those months, more than we had seen during that month period of time really in history. Now, relative to the entire national workforce, it was a relatively small amount. You're looking at, about 3% of the total workforce. But that's a really significant number when you look at it. The thing that's really interesting about that, and it's very applicable to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, is about 1.5% of the national workforce, or about half of the total of people that left their jobs in August and September, were not millennials or folks who were moving jobs. They were actually baby boomers who retired. And I say that because it's something that has been on our radar for a number of years now, especially in manufacturing and some of the other sectors that we have. We have a very good workforce, a very experienced workforce, but an aging workforce. We're not seeing the number of young workers replacing the number of older workers in our market. And as a result of the pandemic, and as a result of just the natural process of aging, we have a lot of employees who are slated to begin retiring in the next few years. Some companies I've talked to say they expect to lose as much as half of their workforce to retirement over the next few years. That's a tough thing. It's a tough challenge for the employers. It's also a heck of a good opportunity for new employees that are looking for good, well-paying jobs and looking to move up. So, really what we want to do moving into the new year is start to work on some strategies for talent attraction. How do we get talented young people to come back to coastal Mississippi, or even come here for the first time to go after some of these jobs and to participate in our economy? That's one of our big next challenges ahead, and it's something that we're spending a whole lot of time on.
Well, I've cited it many times that there was a study done that said 40% of the people who are currently employed are going to look for other employment because they've learned a lot about their companies during the pandemic, and they see these openings and they want to go get them. Yep. So, we're obviously not immune to that reality here in coastal Mississippi, and it's something we're going to have to stay focused on. And I appreciate the fact that the Gulf Coast Business Council and your incredible leadership team is there to stay focused on these issues. I know it's not easy. It's so difficult sometimes herding cats. That's just the way it is But thank God for the Gulf Coast Business Council. Hey, thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate you visiting with me today.
Hey, thank you very much, Ricky. Always a pleasure, and thank you for all you do.
You bet, man. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.